Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today our topic is Android custom data binding using binding adapters. If you have seen some of my earlier videos, you may have noticed I always try to use data binding in my projects, and there are strong possibilities that you guys may love data binding as well. Data binding is pretty easy for simple cases but tricky to get when doing something slightly more complex. So you might have seen data binding of text data on Textview or any other Android views. You may also have seen binding a function on a button. These are very common scenarios, and these kind of operations can be handled by default data binding options. But for complex operations like data binding on Imageview or Recyclerview, we do not have any default settings of data binding. Let's consider an image view. Imagine we have an image view, and that image view shows images through a web URL using Glide. Now, if you want to use data binding on this image view to change the image URI through Glide, you simply have no default options to apply data binding. In this particular case, we have the choice of using Android binding adapters. In this video, I will cover the fundamentals of writing Android binding adapters. By the end of the video, you will see writing basic binding adapters in Kotlin is quite straightforward, as long as you follow some guidelines. I will also cover default data binding at first as a refresher in case if you do not know what data binding is, and later I will show how to use binding adapters to create custom data bindings in Android. Another thing, I will use Android viewmodel and live data in this tutorial. Although viewmodel and live data are not mandatory to use binding adapters, but I want to provide you an essence of real life project, so I am including them here. Alright, enough talk, let's start coding. In Android Studio, we will create a new project and select the empty activity and giving a name, binding adapter, and finish. We will quickly add some dependencies. So we will go to our build.gradle file, and here we will create a dependency named Kotlin KPT. So we add it here, Kotlin KPT, and as we are using data binding, we will add another data binding related dependency. So data binding, and it will enabled equals true. And another thing, as we are going to use viewmodel and live data as I have described earlier, so we need a dependency for that also, and I will simply copy and paste it here. I will give the related all the dependencies in the video description. You can easily get it from there. And last, we will sync our project. Then we will add some layout in our layout files, and the layout is very simple. And go to our main activity.xml, and here I will simply copy paste two views. One is text view and another is image view. I do not want to make this video unnecessary length, so I simply copy paste it. It's simple. It's a text view and another is image view. You can see it from here. See it from here. So let's make it a little bigger. Okay, you can see, and there is a username here. There is a text view, and this is an image view. Very simple. And we will also add a resource file for the source file for the resource image for this image view. So we're going to the file, we're going to the drawable, right click here, and new vector asset, and we will search a clipper and okay, name it contact, maybe this thing, and rename it as user image, and add it to our image view as source. So source equals drawable user image. Okay, that's it. We'll also create a class to hold the user data for like username and user image. So we'll create a class also. So going to a Java, and in our package name, okay, let me make it little bigger, and here we create new Kotlin class, and name of the class will be user info, and this will be a data class, so we make it a data class user info, and we will give our constructor parameters, and it will be var so it will be var name, which will be string, and var user image URI, which will be also a string. Okay, so this is our class to hold the data of the user. Now let's create a view model for our this activity. Actually, the view model will holds all the UI related data for this activity. Okay, so we go to this here and right click and create new Kotlin class, and it will be main view model class, and this this class will extend the view model class. So view model, let's create a live data variable to hold our user info object here. So it will be var user info, and or we say user, and which will be mutable live data. So mutable live data, and it will, the type will be our user info. Okay, this type. So it will be user info, and it will be okay. And we create a init class, init block. So it will be init, and inside the init actually we are doing manual things here. We are not doing any dynamic related things. So I am keeping this very simple. Create an object, so it will be user dot value, and the value will be, we create an just object of this instantiate this type, this class. So if we user info, give any name you prefer, and any a image URI. I am taking a random image URI. So just to make sure that your image URI returns an image. Okay, so just make sure that. So this is the image, and going back to our project. Okay, we have created our view model. So we need to instantiate our view model, or bind or actually create relation of view model from our activity. So going to our activity here and create a variable view model, and the view model will be view model provider, and we set the we set the reference here. So this class dot get our, we need to mention the name of our view model class. Okay, so main view model class dot java. All right, we have created our view model. Now let's create some data binding in our XML layout. So we are going to our main activity, activity underscore main XML, and here the constraint layout is our parent layout here. So we go to the parent layout, right click click here and on the constraint layout, and press Alt Enter, and we get a convert to data binding layout. We simply click it, and we got the layout, we got the view data binding. Okay, now going back to our main activity, and here we need to say we need to do a couple of things, right? We create a variable, so let init var, it will be binding, and the type will be the same activity main binding. So name of this layout, so activity main binding. Okay, and then binding equals that activity main binding dot inflate, and it will be layout inflator, and finally inside inside the set content view, we just call, let's write binding dot root. Okay, now we will go back to our activity main, and here we say a data block, and here we create a variable. So it will be variable, and we give the name of the variable is main view model, and we need to specify which where the variable is referred to. So we refer the variable, we'll refer the variable to this view model. So we take the entire path of this view model. Okay, so it will be main view model, and that's it. So time to actually refer this to from our main activity. So going back to our main activity, and here we write binding dot main view model. So this binding and main view model is this view model, and we refer it to with view model. So we assign it as view model. Okay, so view model. Now if you want to use the feature of live data, we need to define the lifecycle owner. So here the lifecycle owner is the main activity, so it will be binding dot lifecycle owner, and it will be this. Okay, now going back to our activity underscore main.xml, and we go to our text view here, and inside the text view we can see that username here. So this is a manual text, and what we want to do, we want to get a value from our the user info object, which is instantiate in our main view model. Okay, so this is very easy. You probably, most of you know that. So it will be rate of, oh, excuse me, oh, sorry, at the rate of, it will be this, we will use this variable. So text view at the rate of main view model dot user dot name. Okay, we will only use the default data binding to show the name we not we are not going to change anything in our image view. I will show how to use binding adapters for image view later on this tutorial. So for now we are just using the default settings, and we are changing the text view using the data binding. Okay, so we run our app. So from our emulator we can see the name is Tony Ferguson, which is comes from the view model here, and the image default image is not changed, which I have already told that we are not using any data binding right now. But you have seen the default data binding settings for text view. We can easily get the feature of data binding here. Okay, now our next task will be using the binding adapters. Create a binding adapter function, which we will use as a data binding keyword or data binding object to change the image view. From the user info object inside our main view model, we have seen that this is the image URI which comes from a web, and for this handling this kind of scenario, we have a library named glide. What actually glide do? Glide actually take the image URI and fill it into our image view. So we want to use the glide in our project, but to use the glide we need to add some dependencies here. So hide these dependencies, just copy here and paste it inside our build.gradle, okay, and sync our project. By the way, if you don't know what is view model or live data, I have a tutorial for this here. You go to my channel and you can see there are tutorials on view model and live data, and if you see this video, you will get some idea what is live data and view model. Whatever, we go back to our project, and our dependencies has been added. Going back to our activity main, and here we have seen how easily we have added text view data binding here, which is a default data binding, but now we want to add data binding on image view, and that image view is loading image from the web using the glide. But here unfortunately we do not have any default data binding for this kind of scenario, and to overcome this problem, we will add custom data bindings, and we will use binding adapter. Okay, so we go to our this package and create a new file, and name of the file is what should it be? Custom bindings. Okay, custom bindings, and here we will create a function. So it will be function, and name of the function maybe binding image. Okay, binding image, and our function will take two parameters. The first parameter is the view, and the view is here the image view itself. So it will be user image view. Okay, that will be image view. And another thing is the path or the web URI. So for this we will create another another variable, which is image URI, and which will be type of string. Okay, and we will add the binding adapter annotation here. So binding adapter annotation here, and we give it a name, and it will be load image. Okay, so what this means? This means we are creating a binding adapter which name is the load image, and when we use this load image name in our this view, a automatic function will be called from this the binding image function will be automatically called. We do not need to do anything. This is the beauty of binding adapter. Okay, so we need to use the glide here. So glide dot width, and oops, the glide is alt enter, and here the context will be our user image view. So user image view dot context, and the load, it will be loaded inside our this image view. Sorry, the load will be the the load will be the image URI. So it will be image URI, and finally it will be into our this image view. Okay, and going back to our main activity, and we will use the same name here, load image. Just copy it, and here we use app dot load image, where the our Android system already know who is binding adapter we are using. So load image, and this will be, and for this, when we use this this binding adapter, it will automatically call this function. So in this function there are two parameters. The first parameter is the view itself, this is the image view, and the second parameter is the image URI, and we will only pass this image URI. And from where we get in the image URI, this is very simple. We already have done this inside our text view, so we are doing the same thing here. Only difference is we are using, this time we are using the image URI. Okay, so it will be main view model dot user dot I forgot the name. So user image URI. Okay, user image URI. So going back to here, so dot user image URI, and we run our function, run our project, and in our emulator we see the image has been loaded using our binding adapter, which is very simple. And I think it you have understand how easy it is, how easy. We just created a function, and annotate the function with binding adapter, and give it a string value name, and when we use this use this string, we simply call this function, and everything happens magically. In my real life project, I use binding adapter very frequently, especially for Imageview, and most of the cases for Recyclerview, because using data binding for Recyclerview is quite tricky. But when you use a data binding adapter, it becomes so easy, and I love it very much. And okay, this is the end of the tutorial, and hopefully you have learned a lot about data binding using binding adapter, and I hope you can use binding adapter in your future projects easily. And if you like the video, please smash the like button, and you can say me any question in the comment box also, and please subscribe if you not subscribed yet. Have a good night. Thank you.